The second video in the 765 trilogy is Life Begins at 40, which was first released on VHS in 1986. This video covers the 765 during the 1984 season, with extra segments from 1985. This is one of my personal favorites, and I'm going to explain to you why, right here and right now. This is Life Begins at 40. The video kicks off with a brief history of 765's restoration, including some rare film footage of the first movements under steam in 1979, along with her early excursion career, with some rehashed footage from Wheeling in the Rat Hole. As the program begins, the 765 needs to get from Bellevue to Cincinnati for her role in the 1984 NRHS Convention. NW 611 was also rostered for a trip during that same weekend, so how do they get the two engines there? This is, by far, my favorite piece of the video. A perfect showcase of the two best engines from the eastern United States, both running at high speed on rails perfect for it. One thing I'd like to mention is that during this trip, you get to hear 765's signature whistle for, technically, the first time. Also during this trip, 765 was fitted with an N&W hooter whistle from an A-class articulated locomotive. Quite fitting if you ask me. So, making their way across Ohio, the cavalcade finally arrives in Cincinnati in the twilight hours.
They were both put to bed in the small Southern Railway Yard in Ludlow, Kentucky, to await the coming weekend's convention excursions. The unwritten motto of the
Up next, we see a lineup of some of the crew members that work on the engine, such as Tom Stevens, John Snyder, and Rich Melvin. Afterwards, we begin the action for the 1984 NRHS Convention. For this special event, the 765 ran on tracks of the Norfolk and Western, Baltimore and Ohio, Chesapeake and Ohio, and Louisville and Nashville. The crew must really love switching out the whistles on this engine too. I say that because the 765 wore a Pennsylvania 3-chime and a C&O 3-chime on the fireman's side during the convention. One of my favorite segments is shown during a run-by in Maysville, Kentucky. We get to see how the engineer and fireman work together to get the engine running smoothly. By the way, if you like the sound of steam locomotive exhaust, take a listen to this. Simply beautiful. After the convention trips, we get a special treat. Extra segments of the 765's 1985 season, including trips on the former Erie Railroad main line and the east end of the Nickel Plate Road. On the Erie, the 765 made a trip from Buffalo to Corning, New York. On the Nickel Plate, the 765 made trips through Pennsylvania and Ohio. Not a bad way to spend the summer by any means. All in all, how is Life Begins at 40? In a word, brilliant. In my opinion, it's a rail fan's dream come true. An awesome engine doing some fast running against some great scenery. It's a masterpiece. The 765 conquered new territory and became an excursion superstar during her 4th decade of existence. She definitely demonstrated that the old saying is true. Life does begin at 40. Now, to round off this review series, I'm going to review one of the best cab ride videos you'll ever find. Coming up next is the grand finale, my review of Runnin' That New River Train.